The emergency klaxon blared as Cale Richards fought the controls of his failing transport shuttle. Warning lights flashed across the console as the small craft shuddered violently. "Come on, you stubborn piece of junk," he muttered, his fingers flying across the manual override systems. The ship groaned in protest as he guided it toward the shimmering purple atmosphere of the nearest planet. Cale had spent his life fixing things, others deemed worthless on Meridian 9, the forgotten mining colony where he'd grown up. The colony's unofficial motto was "make do or die trying," and he'd embraced that philosophy wholeheartedly. But now, plummeting toward an unknown world with a catastrophically damaged propulsion system, his improvisational skills were being tested to their limits. The shuttle broke through cloud cover, revealing a landscape of towering crystalline spires and violet foliage. Cale managed to aim for a clearing before the engines gave their final sputter. The impact rattled his teeth and nearly knocked him unconscious. But somehow the structural integrity held. Dazed and hungry, he hadn't eaten in almost 20 hours before the system failure. Cale stumbled from the wreckage. The air was breathable, according to his scanner, though tinged with a sweet scent like cinnamon and electricity. Distant lights beckoned from what appeared to be a city nestled among crystalline formations. 3 hours of trekking later, Cale found himself at the edges of the most beautiful settlement he'd ever seen. Luminescent crystal buildings rose in graceful spirals, connected by bridges that seemed to float on air. The inhabitants stall. Slender figures with skin in various shades of purple and bloom moved with fluid grace. Music drifted through the streets, along with the tantalizing aroma of food. Following his stomach, Cale slipped into what appeared to be a public celebration in a grand plaza. Floating tables laden with exotic delicacies surrounded a central fountain that sprayed iridescent liquid into the air. Overwhelmed and dizzy with hunger, Cale approached a figure offering beverages from a crystalline tray. Unlike the others, she wore a simple silver wrap rather than elaborate attire, her lavender skin adorned with subtle glowing markings along her temples. "Excuse me," he said hesitantly, "I'm a bit lost. My ship crashed and I haven't eaten in a day. Could I possibly?" The woman tilted her head, her luminous violet eyes studying him with unexpected intensity. "You are not Lumerian," she observed, her voice musical. "No, I'm human, from Meridian 9. Look, if I could just get something to eat, and maybe directions to whoever handles?" Interplanetary visitors, she offered him a goblet of shimmering liquid. "The Festival of Bonds welcomes all travelers. Drink and be nourished." The liquid warmed him from the inside out, immediately clearing his head. "This is amazing," he sighed with relief. "If you were on Meridian, I'd propose on the spot for saving my life with this drink. Your Highness of Beverages." The plaza fell silent. Every Lumerian turned to stare at them. The woman's eyes widened, and the markings on her temples glowed brighter. "Did you just propose to Princess Nair of Excelia, heir to the Lumerian crystalline throne?" whispered a horrified voice beside him. Cale choked on his drink. "I what? No, I was joking. She's a princess." But already the crowd had begun to kneel, and ceremonial guards approached with reverent expressions. "The bond has been witnessed," announced an elder Lumerian. "During the sacred festival, no less. The stars have chosen." The Princess Naru recovered her composure and fixed Cale with a look that mingled alarm with something unreadable. "Well," she said softly, "this is unexpected. This is absurd," Cale whispered, as he was ushered through crystalline corridors by a procession of Lumerian attendants. His work boots left smudges on the immaculate floor, teeny imperfections that seemed to summarize his entire situation. "I can't be engaged to a princess. There's been a misunderstanding." The chief attendant, Tavil, a tall Lumerian with indigo skin and ceremonial markings across his brow, gave Cale a disapproving glance. "The bonding proclamation during festival time is sacred and irreversible. Princess Niera accepted your offering, and you spoke the words of intention. The entire plaza witnessed it. But I was just thanking her for a drink," Cale protested. Tavil's expression remained impassive. "Our traditions predate your human colonies by millennia. They do not bend for misunderstandings." Cale was guided into a chamber that sparkled like the inside of a geode. Moments later, Princess Niera entered. Having changed from her simple disguise into formal attire, a flowing gown that seemed woven from starlight and crystal, the lavender hue of her skin was more pronounced in the chamber's light, the royal markings along her temples pulsing gently. "Leave us," she commanded, and the attendants bowed and departed. Once alone, her regal posture softened slightly. "You've caused quite the diplomatic situation, engineer." "How did you know I'm an engineer?" "The calluses on your hands, the analytical way you examined our architecture. The toolkit still attached to your belt," she replied. "I observe things, it's why I was among the people in disguise." Cale ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "Look, Your Highness, I meant no disrespect. Where I come from, people make jokes when they're nervous. Where I come from, words have power." She circled him, her movements graceful and precise. "The Festival of Bonds occurs once every 7 years, when our planet aligns with both moons. Proposals spoken during this time are considered blessed by cosmic forces. Can't you just tell everyone it was a mistake?" Niara's expression darkened. "To break a festival bond would bring shame to the royal house. My enemies in the court would use it to question my fitness to rule." She paused. "The crystalline throne has been contested since my parents disappeared 5 years ago. I've maintained control through perfect adherence to tradition." For the first time, Cale noticed the tension behind her composed exterior, the subtle tightness around her eyes, the careful way she held herself. She wasn't just a princess. She was a woman fighting to keep her position. "So what happens now?" he asked more gently. "We maintain the engagement temporarily," she said. "I'll find a diplomatic solution that preserves both our dignities. Until then, you are my chosen consort." A sharp knock interrupted them. Tavil entered with a deep bow. "Your Highness, the Celestial Council requests your presence with your betrothed. The rival houses are questioning the validity of an off-worlder bond." Niara's markings flashed with irritation before returning to their soft glow. "So it begins," she murmured. She turned to Cale and unexpectedly took his hand. Her touch was warm, a contrast to her cool demeanor. "I need your cooperation," she said quietly. "Can I trust you to follow my lead?" The sincerity in her violet eyes caught him off guard. This wasn't just about him anymore. His mistake had complicated her already precarious position. For all his life on Meridian 9, Cale had fixed broken things. This situation was beyond any repair job he'd tackled before. But the principle remained the same: assess the damage, find a solution, implement it carefully. "I got you into this mess," he said, surprising himself with his resolve. "I'll help get you out of it." Something like relief flickered across her face. She squeezed his hand once before releasing it. "Remember," she advised, as they prepared to face the council on Lumeria, "appearances matter above all else. Act like you've chosen me, and I've chosen you." As they entered the Grand Council chamber, Cale whispered, "Just one question. What exactly does a consort do?" The corner of Niara's mouth twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "Try not to start an interplanetary incident for at least 1 day. We'll consider that success." 3 days into his unexpected engagement, Cale slipped away from his royal quarters before dawn. The Lemurian palace guards had grown accustomed to his early risings, a habit formed from years of catching. The first transport shuttle to Meridian 9's. Repair Bazan merely nodded as he passed. He made his way to the crash site where his shuttle remained under guard. The Lemurians had been reluctant to let him examine it, but Niara had intervened, presenting it as a cultural courtesy to allow an engineer to mourn his vessel. "This wasn't mechanical failure," Cale muttered, examining the propulsion system's central coupling. The metal showed clear signs of deliberate scoring. Someone had wanted this ship to fail, but not catastrophically. They'd wanted a controlled crash. "Finding something interesting," Cale started at Niara's voice. She stood in the shuttle doorway, having shed her formal attire for a practical bodysuit of shimmering material. In the early morning light, the purple undertones of her skin seemed to glow from within. "Someone sabotaged my ship," he said bluntly. "The question is whether they were targeting me specifically or just any human vessel." Niara's expression remained neutral, but the markings along her temples pulsed more rapidly. "You suspect Lumerian involvement?" I don't know what to suspect, Kale admitted. But it seems convenient that I crashed during your festival of bonds. She moved closer, examining his evidence with surprising technical insight. The timing aligns with another matter, she said carefully. My intelligence advisors reported unusual activity from House Irax. They've opposed my succession. Since my parents disappeared, their eyes met in understanding. They might have engineered this whole situation, Kale suggested. Manipulated a human into violating your customs to embarrass you. Only to have it backfire when tradition demanded I accept the engagement, Niara concluded. A tension that had existed between them seemed to shift. They were no longer just reluctant partners in a charade, but potential allies against a common threat. The moment was interrupted by a small, crystalline device on Niara's wrist, chiming softly. Her expression tensed. The Galactic Ambassador has arrived early. We're expected at the reception. More performances for the court? Kale asked, unable to keep the weariness from his voice. Niara hesitated, then surprised him by touching his arm. You've played your role well, she said quietly. The Council is starting to believe our ... connection. Is that good or bad? It complicates House Syrax's plans, which is decidedly good. Her violet eyes held his for a moment longer than necessary. But it also complicates our eventual separation. The admission hung between them as they returned to the palace. In the grand reception hall, Kale stood beside Niara as she greeted the ambassador. A gelatinous being that communicated through color changes and translated devices halfway through the proceedings. Niara's hand found his, interlacing their fingers. Unlike their public performances, no one was watching this small gesture. Kale glanced at her questioningly, but her attention remained on the ambassador. Only. The slight glow of her markings and the warmth of her fingers against his suggested that perhaps not everything between them was pretense. Anymore? Later that night, as cosmic storms painted the Lumerian sky with ribbons of light, Niara appeared at his chamber door. I've received intelligence, she said, her voice tight with concern. House Syrax is moving against us sooner than expected. Tomorrow, they will challenge our bond's authenticity at the pre-union ceremony. What does that mean for us? Kale asked. Niara's gaze fell to the floor, then rose to meet his with surprising vulnerability. It means tonight might be our last as allies. By tomorrow, we'll either be truly joined in Lumerian tradition, or I'll lose the throne. The journey to the sacred crystal caves required a day's travel across Lumoria's shifting violet plains. Kale and Niara traveled in a royal transport vessel that skimmed just above the surface, accompanied by a small contingent of loyal guards. The pre-union ceremony would take place at dawn, and according to tradition, the couple must spend the night before in contemplation within the caves. The challenge from House Syrax is unprecedented, Niara explained, her voice low to avoid being overheard. They claim an off-worlder cannot truly understand the cosmic significance of a Lumerian bond. Kale watched the alien landscape blur past the window. They're not wrong, he admitted. I don't understand half of your customs. Understanding and feeling are different matters, Niara replied. Her fingers absently traced the glowing markings on her temple. Many Lumerians follow tradition without connecting to its essence. The elders will be looking for genuine connection, not perfect knowledge. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. After days of navigating court politics together, they developed a rhythm. Niara guiding him through protocol while Kale provided unexpected perspectives that often caught her opponents off guard. The transport suddenly lurched, throwing them forward. A warning klaxon blared through the cabin. We've lost stabilizers, shouted the pilot. Kale was moving before he could think, muscle memory from countless emergency repairs kicking in. He wrenched open the access panel beneath the control console, immediately spotting the sabotage-cut wires and a small device attached to the guidance system. Someone wanted us to crash in the Shardlands, he called out, already working to bypass the damaged system. His fingers moved with practiced precision, rerouting power through secondary channels. Niara appeared beside him, her royal composure replaced by focused determination. The navigation crystal is overheating, she observed, reaching past him to remove the glowing gem from its housing. The crystal hummed in her hands as her markings pulsed in sync with it. I can stabilize the controls. But we need a new flight path, Kale said. Naira closed her eyes, the crystal glowing brighter between her palms. My people share a connection with these crystals, she explained. I can guide it temporarily. Together they managed to bring the vessel to a relatively smooth landing at the edge of a crystalline forest. As the guard secured the perimeter, Niara pulled Kale aside. You saved us, she said quietly. Again. We saved each other, he corrected. Your crystal navigation was... I've never seen anything like it. She smiled, a rare full smile that transformed her typically reserved features. There is much about Lemurians you don't know. Night fell as they made camp, the sabotage transport too damaged to continue. The sacred caves were still hours away, and the pre-union ceremony couldn't be delayed. We must proceed on foot at first light, Nieta announced to the dismayed guards. House Cyrax will claim forfeit otherwise. Later. Seated by a small crystal fire that cast dancing shadows across the clearing, Niera joined Kale away from the others. If we don't reach the caves by dawn, ... Quotes, Kale began. I lose the throne, she finished simply. Years of maintaining stability, gone. The weight of her burden struck him anew. Why did you maintain our charade after discovering the sabotage? You could have exposed House Cyrax's plot and avoided all this. Niera was silent for a long moment, her violet eyes reflecting the flickering light. At first, it was political necessity, she admitted. But then... She moved closer, the sweet scent of her skin-like starflowers and ozone filling his senses. Then I found myself curious about the human who speaks his mind without fear, who sees problems as puzzles rather than obstacles. Her hand found his, their fingers intertwining as they had during the reception. On Lemuria, every potential union is arranged for advantage. No one has ever simply chosen me. I didn't exactly choose you, Kale reminded her with a small smile. I crashed into your life quite literally. Perhaps the crash was no accident, she suggested. Not the sabotaged, but the fact that of all the places in the galaxy you landed here during the festival. The markings along her temples glowed with soft pulsing light as she leaned toward him. Their lips met in a tentative kiss that quickly deepened with surprising hunger. Kale felt a tingling energy where their skin connected, as though the luminescence beneath her lavender skin was reaching toward him. When they finally parted, Niera's markings were glowing brighter than he'd ever seen. What happens tomorrow? Kale asked, suddenly reluctant to return to the pretense of their arrangement. Niera touched his face gently. Tomorrow, we either convince the elders our bond is genuine, or we fail and face the consequences. And if we succeed, what then? Her expression grew serious. Then we would be truly bonded in Lemurian tradition. It's not a commitment to take lightly. The implication hung between them as the alien night grew deeper around their small camp. Two people from different worlds brought together by circumstance, now facing a choice neither had anticipated. Dawn broke over the sacred crystal caves, bathing the massive formation in rose-gold light. Kale and Niera stood before the entrance, their night journey through the forest having left them weary but determined. The royal guards formed a perimeter as representatives from all the great houses gathered to witness the ceremony. Lord Vex of House Cyrax stepped forward, his midnight blue skin contrasting with harsh red markings. The off-worlder arrives late to his own pre-union, he announced loudly. Perhaps he does not value Lemurian tradition. We arrived precisely at dawn, as required, Niera responded coolly. After surviving an assassination attempt that bears your house's signature, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Accusations of attempted royal murder were far more serious than questions of ceremonial timing. The elder priestess, her ancient lavender skin nearly translucent with age, raised her hand for silence. The caves will judge the truth of this bond, she declared, as they have for 10,000 years. Princess Niera and her chosen stepped forward. Kale felt a flutter of nerves as they entered the massive crystalline structure. Inside, the cave opened into a cathedral-like chamber, where countless facets reflected and amplified the light of a single beam that fell from an opening far above. The chamber of resonance? Niera whispered to him. The crystals will respond to emotional truth. The elder priestess directed them to stand within the light beam. Place your hands upon the heart crystal, she instructed, indicating a massive gem embedded in the chamber's center. As they both touched the crystal, Kale felt an immediate tingling sensation that traveled up his arm. The crystal began to glow, pulsing in rhythm with Niera's temple markings. Now, the priestess continued, you will each speak your truth to the crystal. It will reveal what lies in your hearts. Niera spoke first, her voice clear in the hushed chamber. I, Niera Vexelia, came to this union through unexpected circumstances. I did not seek it, nor did I desire it initially. She paused, her eyes meeting Kale's. But in knowing this man, I have found something I never thought possible. Someone who sees me, not just my crown, someone whose courage and ingenuity complement my own strengths. The universe brought him to my world for a reason. The crystal glowed brighter, casting rainbow reflections throughout the chamber. The assembled witnesses gasped at the intensity. Kale swallowed hard, suddenly aware that no practiced words would work here. Only honesty would suffice. I crashed onto this planet by accident, he began. I mistook a princess for a server, and spoke words I didn't understand the weight of. His voice grew stronger as he continued. But in the days since, I've come to admire Niera's strength, her dedication to her people, her brilliant mind. Where I come from, on Meridian 9, we value people for what they can build and repair. Niera builds peace and repairs fractures in her society daily. He took a breath, surprised by the emotion welling within him. I don't know if I'm worthy of a princess or a throne, but I do know that the thought of returning to a life that doesn't include her feels incomplete now. The heart crystal's glow intensified dramatically, sending beams of light dancing across the cavern walls. The markings on Niera's temples pulsed in perfect synchronization with the crystal's light. The elder priestess smiled. The crystal resonates with truth. This bond, however it began, has grown roots. Before Lord Xyrax could object, a tremendous rumble shook the cavern. Chunks of crystal began falling from above as the ground shifted beneath them. Seismic charges. One of the guards shouted. The cave is collapsing. Chaos erupted as people rushed toward the exit. Kale grabbed Niera's hand, but instead of fleeing, she pulled him deeper into the cave. The heart crystal, she explained urgently. If it's damaged, the entire resonance network that stabilizes Lumeria's crust will fail. Understanding dawned on Kale. Your entire civilization is built on a crystal matrix. This is bigger than just the ceremony. They reached the center chamber just as Lord Xyrax and two followers entered from another passage, weapons drawn. If I cannot rule Lumeria, Xyrax snarled, no one will. Kale assessed the situation with an engineer's eye. The charges had been placed strategically to crack the main crystal along natural fault lines. Repair would be possible, but they needed time. Keep them busy, he told Niera, already moving toward the heart crystal. I need 5 minutes. What followed was a blur of action. Niera engaged the attackers with unexpected skill, her movements fluid and precise. Meanwhile, Kale worked frantically, using tools from his ever-present kit to stabilize the fracturing crystal. The resonance is failing. Niera called out as she deflected a blow from Xyrax. Kale realized what needed to be done. The crystal needs to synchronize with your markings, he shouted, like you did with the navigation crystal. Niera understood immediately. Dispatching the last guard with a swift strike, she rushed to the crystal and placed her hands on its surface. Her markings blazed with intense light as she channeled her energy into the gem. Kale completed the final connections, then placed his hands over hers. To his astonishment, he felt the energy flowing between them, through the crystal, and outward through the entire network. Together, they became a circuit, stabilizing the resonance that kept Lumeria whole. The tremors gradually subsided. Royal guards rushed in, securing Lord Xyrax and his remaining followers. As the danger passed, Kale and Niera remained connected through the crystal, its light enveloping them in a prismatic aura. I think, Niera said softly, we just completed more than a pre-union ceremony. The elder priestess approached, bowing deeply. The bond of resonance has been witnessed. Not in 10 generations has the heart crystal responded so powerfully. She looked between them with newfound respect. The throne is secure, Your Highness. And it seems the stars truly did choose your consort wisely. Later, as they stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal spires of the capital city, Kale contemplated the strange path that had brought him here. So, he said, am I actually stuck being royal now? Nyera's laugh was like the chiming of crystal bells. The position of consort can be interpreted creatively. Perhaps royal engineer would suit you better. You did save our entire planetary stabilization system. I had help, Kale reminded her, taking her hand and watching as her markings brightened at his touch. We make a good team, she agreed. Your practical solutions, my traditional knowledge, is that what we're calling it? A team. Nyera turned to face him fully, the lavender of her skin glowing in the setting sunlight. What would you call it? Kale considered all they'd been through, from mistaken identity to assassination attempts to saving a planet. On Meridian 9, we have a saying, some repairs leave the machine better than it was before. He brushed his fingers along her glowing temple markings. I crashed into your life and caused damage. But maybe what we've built from that accident is stronger than what existed before. A cosmic bond, Nyera murmured. Leaning closer, forged in the most unexpected circumstances, as their lips met. The crystal spires of the city seemed to shimmer in response, resonating with a bond that had begun with a mistake but had grown into something neither could have imagined, a connection that bridged worlds, cultures, and the vast distances between stars.